A mentor is somebody that's going to go ahead and understand that this is a young human being.
Yeah.
Their brain is not fully developed. The science says not until, around 25, 30. I know 50-year-olds who aren't fully developed, right? So you can't imagine that they're going to know how to do everything right, you know? And so a mentor is somebody that says, I'm going to help you figure this thing out, man. And I'm going to learn from you just like you're going to learn from me.
Yeah.
That's a real mentor.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Break That Cycle, where we help you turn your obstacles into opportunities. I am your host, Bill Cheney, and today's episode is going to be a tough one. We are talking about youth violence and gun violence, and I have somewhat of an expert here with me today, leading a great organization. Freddy Barton is the executive director of Safe and Sound Hillsborough, a collaborative dedicated to reducing violence through a public health model. Under his leadership, the organization has launched youth gun offender programs, mental health first aid training, mentorship initiatives, community forums, and transformed public spaces into safe havens for families. His approach connects policymakers, civil leaders, law enforcement, and neighbors to address the root causes of violence while giving young people real alternatives and second chances. Beyond his role at Safe and Sound, Freddy is a respected community leader and advocate recognized statewide for his impact in violence prevention and social justice. He has received honors such as the FBI Director's Community Leadership Award, the Tampa Bay Lightning's Community Hero Award, and the University of South Florida's Community Impact Award. A sought-after speaker, workshop leader, and mentor, Freddy continues to use his platform to build partnerships, empower youth, and remind us all that we each have a role in creating safer, stronger communities. Freddy, welcome. Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Thank you for joining us on Break That Cycle. And when we got to talking a little bit about your path, I told you this is an episode that really came to light for me only a couple months ago.
Yeah.
There was a tragedy that struck the Safe and Sound family. Yeah. And I knew that this episode needed to be in the portfolio that we have, because it is something that doesn't really get talked about often, and you can find a cycle in it that needs to be broken.
Yeah.
We have a lot to get into, and I definitely want to get into Safe and Sound, and we will. But first, I want to take us back a little bit.
Yeah.
How did Freddy get to this point?
It's it's a funny story. I've always been in nonprofit. Well, not always, but over 20 years, right? I've been in nonprofit work and community work. And before I came on to Safe and Sound, I was the COO for another nonprofit, the CDC of Tampa, right?
Okay.
And CDC is a community quarterback in East Tampa.
Yep.
Everyone knows Chloe Coney and Ernest
Yep.
Coney. And I was a COO there. And when Safe and Sound was just getting started, it was the Violence Prevention Collaborative of Hillsborough County. That's what it was called, the VPC.
Okay.
Before it was named Safe and Sound. And the county wanted a fiscal agent. They wanted some, entity to come on and take this and be the backbone agency.
Okay.
So, I was in some of the original meetings, when there was 300 some odd people every month meeting about developing the strategic plan.
Yeah.
And when they put out the RFP for a fiscal agent, I was writing grants and, left and right for CDC, and we saw it. And we said, hey, this is something right up our alley. And Commissioner Beckner met with Ernest Coney and I and a couple of other folks. And we wrote the response and we got it, right? And I was running CDC of Tampa, and I was given on loan to Safe and Sound while we kind of searched for an executive director, did a national search. And, here's this guy, Freddie, that not too many people knew outside of, CDC of Tampa space. And the funniest thing is I looked at this strategic plan that we had, and I said, this is a really well-written document. It's really nice and pretty, but there's really no community voice, so you might as well take this and throw it in the trash.
Nice.
a couple of months after that, the board of Safe and Sound went to the board for CDC and said, hey, we want Freddie to run this thing. You know, he really gets it and he understands public health model, he understands community. And that was in 2015 going to 2016, and I've been attached to Safe and Sound ever since.
What led you into nonprofit world? Just curious.
So, you know, I first started, you know, my professional career. I started in, you know, computers. I was an instructor. I was a teacher. I was a tutor, and I became a Microsoft Master Instructor. Right, okay. So that was my first official, you know, stuff. And then I got into telecommunications. What I noticed though is I love to help people become better. Right. I when I was in the classroom, when I was teaching, I was, you know, teaching network technicians, you know, how to do all this kind of stuff. It was seeing the light bulb, you know, go off and seeing people happy that they learned something. Yeah. And that just, it showed me that I had a knack for helping people become or try to become better. Sure. Right. And I always wanted to do that. So when I found myself here in Tampa, and started working in community space and partnering with, you know, workforce education. And I always found a real easy path in the youth. Anything that had to do something with kids, whether it's helping kids find jobs, whether it's teaching them to get a job, whether it's teaching them life skills or serving as that mentor, I just had a natural knack for it.
Do you think there's a reason that you gravitated towards the youth?
You know, I think so. You know, my dad's retired, you know, military, and growing up, I'm, you know, in the middle of 7, but, you know, growing up in my house, it was me and my younger brother, my younger sister.
You said that you're the middle of 7?
Middle of 7,
Ooh,
yeah.
Man.
A blended family, real weird story. That's a whole nother story. But, you know, I grew up with, you know, parents who, you know, my dad worked all the time. My mom was a homemaker, but she always told me that I needed to take care of my siblings, right? Like, you got to be there. And my siblings, you know, my sister, she's a year younger than me, and my brother is 3 years. But they always like look to me to help, you know, tell me how to do this, teach me how to do this, teach me how to do that. And so I kind of just always had a knack for it. When I started getting into community work, anything that had to do with kids, I just naturally, like, I've got that dad role, right? Yeah. God gave me boys for a reason, right? He knew that I did not need to have girls. I'd be crazy right now. But anything with like boys, like trying to teach them something, because when I think about my dad taught me so many things that I didn't even realize until I had kids. Oh, okay. Right? Yeah. And then I just realized that so many kids don't have that. Yeah. And I just had to do something to help, especially boys, you know, learn these life skills, because they're not, and you said it earlier, they're not taught right now. Right. At our center, we were putting something together, and I told one of the boys, get me the Phillips head, right? He had no clue what I was talking about. Damn. And I said, so it's not a flat head, it's the Phillips head. And still just this blank stare. Wow. And I say, get the screwdriver, it looks like a plus sign. Yeah. And he knew it, then he got it, right? And so just something that simple. Yeah. And I said, no, we got to do something about this.
It can be funny, because I remember seeing online lady doing stuff in the garage, and she's like, go get mommy a screwdriver. Yeah. And so the kid comes out with a drink. And it's like, all right, that's funny, but no, that's serious. I mean, the kids, you know, that's you're absolutely right. There's a disconnect somewhere. And you know, like I said, that is a cycle that somehow, some way needs to be broken. Yeah. And am I wrong in saying that's kind of the basis of Safe and Sound, is to try and step in? Yeah. So I'll break down Safe and Sound in the public health model with a quick story, right? So there's a man at the bank of a river, and he's seeing people drowning in the river. He jumps in the river, he saves, you know, a couple of them, pulls them to the bank of the river. As soon as he does that, he looks back and he sees more people drowning, right? He jumps in, the more people he saves, the more people he sees drowning. He gets people to help him, and, you know, they're saving so many people, but every time they turn around, there's more people drowning. Finally, he gets up and he walks away, and people are like, what the hell are you doing? We need you here. And he's like, I need to find out why people are drowning in the first place. Yeah. Wow. Walks further up, and he sees there's a hole in the bridge, right? Yeah. And he starts to repair that hole. Now, unfortunately, what's happening during that time? People are drowning. People are dying. Yeah. But he's preventing more and more people from doing this. And that's public health 101, right? That's the whole point of Safe and Sound.
What causes a kid to want to pick up a gun in the first place? What causes a person to feel that there's nothing in their life except pain,
Yeah.
that there's nothing that they want to do except cause harm to themselves or others? When we look at, dilapidated neighborhoods, when we see that kids don't have things to do, they don't have structured
Yes.
out of school time opportunities, when we see lack of employment, when we see fatherless children or inactive fathers in the lives of their kids, all of these things can contribute to a negative decline and then also have the propensity for violence to occur.
Yeah.
So Safe and Sound addresses those things,
Yeah.
right? You can't talk about preventing violence and not say mental health in the same sentence, right?
Yeah.
Right now, our kids have information overload.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's negative information.
Absolutely.
They see negative stimulus all day long.
Yep.
I was at this conference and the psychiatrist said that you have an average of 6 seconds to let something that you see or you witness bother you or not.
Right.
And if you allow it to, to permeate through your head, it can stay with you for up to 6 hours in a day. 6 seconds for 6 hours. So let's take a look at this. You got a kid who wakes up late. Mom's yelling at him saying, hey, you need to get your ass up. You got to go to school. You got to get on the bus. He's already being told that, right?
Yep.
Probably he's hungry, getting ready to get to the bus, damn near misses the bus, gets on the bus. People are talking. He's on social media. He's seeing all this negative stuff.
Yep.
He or she has probably had 10 different things that have hit them before 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yep.
And then we wonder, well, why are you so angry at school? Why are you? And then they, God forbid, they get late, right? God forbid they get late to school.
Yeah.
And now teachers saying you're late to school.
late.
So, but we
Yep.
want you to perform. We want you to be a good kid.
Yep.
Right. So we got to understand that it's a different time right now. Kids have so much on them right now, so much on their brains that we got to take a step back and, we got to stop saying what's wrong with you, right? And ask what's going on.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the whole point with Safe and Sound, especially with the programming that we have with the kids.
No, I like how you just jumped right to the shit. Let's just get in it. But let's keep going with that then.
Yeah.
So we know that Safe and Sound is there to help prevent violence, and obviously gun violence is part of that. Everyone wants to talk about the gun violence because it's the sexy thing to talk about. But what does it really mean in Hillsborough? So a lot of the stuff that we hear on social media news, LA, Chicago, New York. But what does that look like here in Hillsborough?
So we run several programs. So I'll just kind of run through those, right? So we have a program that works with any kid that gets arrested, right? There's a score called a Dre score. So quick, summary of it: 0 to 6 points, you're pretty much diverted out. You go to, you get DV out of the system, kind of like a civil citation thing.
Okay.
7 to 8 points, you're on home detention, or what we know as house arrest, right? You can't go outside your house. You got to stay in your house. You can't be on the sidewalk. You can't do anything, right?
Is this based on the charge, or is there a test taken?
So it's based on several factors: the age of the kid, the history of the kid, the charge itself.
Yeah.
And so there's a score. There's this little matrix.
Who creates the score?
It's by Department of Juvenile Justice. Yeah, so DJJ has this thing. It's called the Detention Risk Assessment Instrument, the DRE. That score, if a kid gets arrested, they get taken to the Juvenile Assessment Center. Okay. They're given that score. And the next day when they go to court, that score will recommend what happens to that kid for 21 days, right? Before they actually go for arraignment, but before they even see the judge and take a plea. If you're at 7 to 8 points, you're on home detention or house arrest. 9 to 10, by state statute, you get ordered to reporting center, right? So our program. Anything above that, you're either on an ankle monitor or you're held insecure.
Okay.
We get the kids who, one, are scored for us, but then we advocate for the kids who are higher, right? That score for secure detention, because we don't want them locked up for 21 days. We don't want them in a juvenile detention center. We want to work with those kids.
Right.
We have them for up to 21 days. We only see them for about 14, 15 days because of weekends and things like that. So it's impossible to think that you can have a long-term effect. So we created a 90-day program that works with kids after they go to court and they're placed on probation, so we can attach a mentor to them and help them navigate through the case. And then with our youth gun offender program, That's a 6-month program where we're doing we do therapy with them. We're taking them to morgues, to funeral homes, to trauma centers. They sit in front of people who lost their, loved ones to gun violence. They also sit in front of people who've gone to prison for some of these charges. Okay. Some of them went in before they were 18. Those programs have hundreds of kids that come through our doors. The surprising statistic, though, is 70% of the kids that we have are all gun kids. These are kids that have picked up a firearm, been caught with a firearm, committed a crime with a firearm. And when I say about 70% of our kids, we right now had just had a board meeting and we were releasing numbers. The month of August and September, we had a total of 69 kids that we worked with that are in our active programs. Out of those 69, 47 of them were our youth gun offender program.
Wow.
Right? So and these numbers are holding. Right, we're starting to see at least 1 to 2 new kids every single week that are still being arrested. When people hear, gun violence, youth gun violence, they think one area of the county, one area of the city of Tampa. No, man, if you literally take the map of Hillsborough County, close your eyes and throw a dart, you've got a zip code where we got a kid.
Wow.
We've got kids in East Tampa, West Tampa, University area, Thanota, Sassa, Plant City, down here in Ruskin, we've got Riverview. No area of the county is exempt from this issue.
Jeez.
Yeah.
What going through these cases and speaking with these kids, are you able to identify maybe a few different constants that a child would pick up a gun?
We back in, I want to say 2020, we started this study. And what I did is I went into the juvenile detention center for a month and I interviewed kids every single day. And I think it was something like 140 kids, over a 1-month period. I did it with the public defender's office with Julie Holt. 88% of the kids there said that they can get their hands on a firearm
just
in
like
their
that.
community. Quick. I'll tell you a scary story. We were doing a town hall meeting or community meeting, something like that. We were talking to kids. This is before we even started our youth gun offender. We were talking years ago. And we were talking about gun violence. We were talking about the gun buyback program, right?
Right.
Good concept, well intended. And this 14-year-old kid, very intelligent, said, I read about the gun buyback program, but that doesn't make sense because those are the guns that you don't want. No one wants those guns. And I never heard a kid use the word musket. He said, they're getting shotguns and muskets, but those aren't the guns that you need to get off the street. And here's the scary part about it, man. He said, if you want to know where guns are, and he gave me an intersection. He told me, you go to this corner, you're going to see a stop sign. At the stop sign, you're going to see a rock. If you lift up that rock, you'll find a gun right there. I called him on this shit, right? So I literally called one of the police officers that we were, cool with, and I said, "Hey, can you meet me?
I need you to go find a rock." Yeah,
I said, "Can you meet me over here? I want to see if this kid's, telling the truth." Sure enough, literally, there was a gun right there under a rock. What the hell? And I mean, this is a 14-year-old kid telling me this, right? And so I literally go back and I go talk to this kid. I'm like, "How did you know that?" And he's like, "But they put him there. They stashed him there." And I'm like, "Are you serious?" Wow. And so I'm talking to TPD, and they're like, all right, so we need to start talking to kids about guns,
right?
And finding out where these things are. And so that kind of served as this initial thought that we got to really get in front of kids. Yeah, we got to work with the kids who are committing these offenses, but we got to work with the younger brothers and younger sisters to get them to not do this in the first place, right? Yeah. So that's what started all this programming.
Wow. 14 years old.
14 years old told me that.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Processing.
Yeah.
I'm sure you have a boatload of stories to share that make impacts on you and your organization. Do you have, and keeping on the topic of youth violence, do you have a story that might really pull at some heartstrings to get people to realize that this is an issue? This is not just TV land.
I'll give you. So I'll actually tell you how I said we were going to do this, right?
Okay.
So I've always been, a mentor and big brother, kids, whatever. And this is before we even started our reporting center. I got a phone call from the public defender's office, and they said, look, and it was a joint call, public defender's office, state attorney, everybody said, let's see what Freddy could do. There was a 13-year-old kid. He was over at a middle school. He had been bullied. and he literally told the kids, and what the kids were, they were jumping them at school, and they were videoing, right? And they were putting it on, YouTube and whatever online.
Yeah.
And he told them, he said, if y'all bother me one more time, I'm gonna come bust up the school, and literally just matter of fact about it.
Yeah.
Well, they jumped him again, and literally he took his grandfather's gun. Now, here's the interesting thing about it. Took the grandfather's gun. He didn't take the gun in the school. He left it outside. It was like on a tractor tire, but he told somebody that he had the gun out there.
Yeah.
And when, everybody was talking to him after they, arrested him and charged him, they said, well, why'd you leave it outside? He said, because I didn't want to take it to school. I didn't want people to bother me when I got out of school again. Everybody painted this kid as public enemy number one.
The villain, yeah.
Right? Shortly after Parkland. And I'll never forget, so when Julie Holt called me and she said, this kid needs a mentor. We want somebody to mentor him. Can you just talk to this kid?
Yeah.
They told me the name of this kid. And, if for people who say that we don't judge and we don't form judgments, you're full of shit. Everybody does it, right? No matter who you are, you automatically assume something when you see somebody or think something.
Which is another cycle we need to break. But that is like a 3-part episode series. Yeah.
So I go to the juvenile detention center and I tell them who I'm there to see. And I've already got an image of what this kid looks like, right, in my head.
Right.
Complete opposite.
Wow.
I mean, face like a cherub, just scared to death, and I'm looking at this kid and I'm talking to him and he's telling me what happened. He said, I was just tired of getting beat up every day. And then they were videoing, they were sending the video to everybody. I just got tired of it. The sad part about that was I told him, hey, when you get out of juvenile detention, I want you to come over, we're going to hang out, we're going to talk, whatever. I had a community event probably 2 weeks after that. And we had some bounce houses over at our park center. This 13-year-old terror, right, stayed in a bounce house for like 2 hours. Literally, just kept jumping by himself.
Yeah.
This terror that everyone painted him. All kids want to be kids. Kids want to be treated like kids. And when I saw that, and I would talk to him, and literally he became like a part of my family. My kids hung out with him.
Yeah. Fast
forward, that kid turned 16. Came and talked to me and said, Pops, Mr. Freddy, I don't think school is for me anymore. I just want to get my GED. Do you think that's okay? And I talked to him, his mom, and his mom said he just doesn't want to be in a school environment. I said,
can't blame him.
I said, okay, well, why do you want to get your GED? He said, well, if I get my GED, isn't that the same thing as I have to school? I said, well, yeah, you can still go to college, you can do whatever. He said, well, I'd rather just do that and get, while I'm 16, and that way I can get a job. Literally did it. Got a job, worked, got off probation, got all this stuff, did so well that years later when the Super Bowl was down here, they highlighted him and then they sent him to the Super Bowl in Las Vegas, the next year. So, and I didn't even go.
You sound salty about that.
But it's okay, But it's like stories like that, help inspire. But then there's also stories of hurt.
Yeah.
When the shooting happened in Ybor.
Yeah.
The 14-year-old kid who got killed and the 14-year-old kid who got charged in that, both of those kids were our kids.
Both yours.
They were in our program.
Yeah.
They finished successfully, right? One kid had finished probably 3 months. Another kid was out. The other kid was out like 2 months. It hurt so bad, but then infuriated me at the same time. And I went and talked to one of the juvenile judges and I said, this is why I keep telling you all, there has to be something after they finish with us.
Right.
You gotta keep these kids connected to something.
Right.
You gotta have mentors that are gonna attach. And that's why we built the mentorship program, right?
Yeah.
Just to have some stuff. So we got stories for days on kids who've done very well. We've got stories for days on kids who just didn't get it. And then we've got stories, unfortunately, for days that break your heart.
Yeah.
We lost a kid, and to suicide with a firearm. Like, you ask yourself, how do you get up the next day and do this all over again?
Yeah.
The answer is because I know that we have to.
Yeah.
We have to. These kids need us, man.
Somebody's got to.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to. And it, it's nice that you're leading that charge because you have that passion for it. And in that leadership position, you need somebody who's gonna get up after that rough day. And let's go get the next one.
Yeah.
Let's help the next person out.
Yeah.
It's a heavy topic. I recommend anybody going to your website and looking at some of those videos on there. I mean, as I was explaining a little earlier, it was hard for me to keep it together watching some of those videos, just the impact that it has, specific with the gun violence. You know, it could be an isolated incident, but there's three parts of this that it affects immediately. The one that was taken too soon, the one that is going to have to live with that for the rest of their life, and then the family of both children. Yeah. Because nothing's ever going to be the same again.
So we have we call it Victims' Voices. We have that project where they listen to the stories of loss. And one of the folks, I never forget, he said this, and he's talking to the kids. He said, you know, Christmas comes, Thanksgiving comes, you know, you're supposed to be happy and all. He said, but every single day I've got an empty chair. Every day at my dinner table there's an empty chair. Every day there's an empty bed. There's nothing, he said, there's no pill I can take. I can't drink my way out of it. I can't fight my way out of it. I will always have this pain every single day because my child was taken from me. And when he tells that story, he actually pulls a chair and he just sits it right in front of the kids. And he literally just talks to this empty chair. And at first it's kind of awkward, but then you actually start visualizing someone there. And the kids, when we talk to them, they're like, yeah, I see myself there. I see my brother there, you know? And so to hear those stories, man, and they come in, it's just so real, it's gut-wrenching. And even with our films that we did, you know, we've got 2 films and we're producing the 3rd film now. Everything's based on real events that happened here in Hillsborough County. And so you feel the pain, like you feel the impact. In one of our films, we talk about how one child was lost, you know, because of, you know, being killed, and another child was lost because they got sentenced to prison for 12 years. We tell the kids in our program, if you pick up a firearm and you do this and you hurt someone, you don't go to jail or prison by yourself. Your mother goes with you, you know, because they're locked up in their mind, in their heart. They don't have you there. So you got to understand that if gun violence anywhere is a tragedy everywhere. It doesn't matter where you're from. Doesn't matter where you live. You cannot be, you know, put your head in the sand and think that it's not going to happen to you because I live in this neighborhood or we don't have guns in my house. This thing hits everybody, man.
It does. And I want to get into what we can do as a community, as a society to help, you know, in any way possible. Definitely want to get into that. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back with Freddy, he's going to give us some insight on some things that we can do as community members to try and alleviate some of the pain out there. First, a real quick message from our sponsors, Mary and Martha House.
Mary and Martha House is a beacon of hope. For over 4 decades, it continues to shine brightly and illuminate the path towards a better future for countless women and families in need. Since our humble beginnings in 1982, we have dedicated ourselves wholeheartedly to the noble cause of helping those affected by domestic violence and homelessness. Did you know that every day in communities all around us, 1 in 4 women and 1 in 15 children face the terrifying reality of domestic violence? Compassion is the cornerstone of everything we do. We approach each person with a deep understanding of their unique struggles and needs. We foster an environment where respect and appreciation are not just words, but guiding principles that shape our interactions and relationships. Each member of our dedicated team is held to the highest standard, ensuring that compassion guides every aspect of our work. Mary and Martha House is a place where hope takes root, love blossoms, and lives are forever changed.
Please spread the word. Help raise awareness about Mary and Martha House by sharing their mission, success, stories, and upcoming events on social media. By amplifying their message, you can reach a wider audience and encourage others to get involved or make a donation. Please remember, even the smallest act of kindness can make a significant difference in the lives of those in need.
The episode that I did with Alicia, she pointed out that she thought coaches were the most important person in a young child's life. And it's because they're actually taking the time and putting in the effort and getting to learn the child. And they know when something's not right. They know when they're acting weird and they're off, and they're able to intervene because that's my coach. That's, you know, he can do that. Whereas some parents can't even crack the code
because they don't want to, because they turn off. You know, it's like, I don't want to deal with this. I got my own shit that I'm dealing with, right?
Yeah.
So you need to figure your stuff out. I did it, so you need to do it. You know, that's the approach, because
that's another cycle we need to break. You know? I hate that. I hate that. And it is because it is the mentorship that is lacking.
Yeah.
So if these kids are finding them in the coaches, you guys are like the coaches. And so we're just going to fly right into it. Okay. Freddie and I already started talking, so welcome back. We are in the middle of it. And you've said before, kids don't wake up violent.
Right.
But in cases that you're seeing, and in all cases, not just the gun violence, but what signs are you seeing or trends? Is there anything that we can look out for, and, you know, somebody that maybe identify someone who needs a mentor?
You know, the first thing, so I'll hit it on a couple of different fronts. So the first question I get from when I'm talking about gun violence in the community is, Freddie, what can I do? You know, we don't have guns in my house, so what can I do to address this? The first thing I ask them is, when was the last time you went in your kid's room? Right? Well, I don't go in the room. Big mistake, right? Like, who has privacy? So go in the room.
My parents couldn't fit in they couldn't get their stuff all over the floor. There was no way they were getting in my room.
But it's like, go in the room, look under the bed, look under the pillow, look in the book bag. Man, find out what's in your kid's book bag before they go to school and when they get back, right? Talk to your kid about what's going on in school, you know, and if you have a kid that's, you know, normally rambunctious, they're happy-go-lucky, and all of a sudden they get quiet, you need to dial in. And you need to ask them, you know, what's going on, how you feeling, you know, because that might be that one little moment that can help them come from down, you know, 10 down to 2, you know, because we're starting to see the kids that come in our program, they're angry, they're frustrated, they're mad, and the first thing that they think about is, I gotta fight. No, you don't, kid. You know, let's talk about bringing it down. Second thing, you know, what can the community do? Again, I always tell people, one, stop asking a kid what's wrong with you. Right? Don't ask that question. Instead of asking what's wrong with you, ask them, what's going on? Is there anything you want to talk about? Is there anything going on that that we need to know? Because there's nothing wrong with the kids.
Right.
There are things bothering.
And they're reacting.
And the second thing is, if you see a kid walking and they got their head down, talk to them. Like, just literally say what's up, and it makes them look up, right? And let them know, man, keep your head up. Keep your head up. You know, I see you, kid. You know, you're good. Everybody's not a mentor. Everybody's not, you know, a coach, but everybody can still have an impact, right? Just being nice, being kind, you know, finding out what's going on with these kids. These kids nowadays have their own culture, their own language. You need a Rosetta Stone for them, right? I got boys. I got adult boys now, 22 and 19. But even when they were younger, like, I literally, anytime I wanted to do some programming with kids, I would talk to them and ask them, does this make sense, right? And the language that they use, I couldn't keep up. And every time, by the time I learned this word, there was another word, right? But
we don't say that anymore, Dad.
Right. It's like we don't do that. You're tweaking. You know, like, what? So, and when people want to volunteer and mentor, and they say, hey, how can we get involved? The first thing I tell them, I do when they come to our centers, I give them a video game controller. And they're like, what is this? I thought we were going to have training. I say, yeah, here.
Learn how to play.
Play this.
Pick up
play
them
2K.
Sticks.
play 2K. Play Madden. And they're like, well, what do I said, if you can't learn how to play this game, how are you going to communicate with the kids? Because that's what they do. That's how they communicate. And so literally, that's their that's the starting on mentoring training. So anybody can have an impact. The last thing about community is, we got to start talking with one another again, right? Everybody's on their phones. Everybody's got their heads down. Everybody's texting. We got to start having conversations. Our kids don't know how to deal with conflict.
Yes.
They don't know, because the first thing they do is they just get on their phones, right? We got to start letting them know that they can verbalize things, that they can talk things out. And that first starts in the home, and it starts in the community, you know?
Yeah. It's, and I think really getting off of social media, because whenever you see a conflict happening on social media, 9 times out of 10, there's some sort of fight or
Yeah.
there's some brawl or something like that. Very rarely does anybody set a good example and say, I don't agree with what you said. Let's talk about it and work it out. One thing that I saw on your guys' social media, speaking of social media, but the good social media, was a gentleman that works in, I don't know if he worked in your organization or as a volunteer, but it was pretty much, he was calling out people and we're saying, if you want to make a difference in your community and you think that you're a big dog and you think all this stuff, why don't you come out and help somebody not go down the path that you went down.
Right.
And is that part of the mentor program?
Yeah. So, and I love the word mentor because it has this stigma on it, right? And when people say, hey, I want to come and be a mentor, I'm like, okay, cool. That's why I give them the video game controller, because a mentor is not somebody that stands in front of a group of kids and tells them about how great their life is and what they overcame. And you too can be like me if you just do what I did. That's not a mentor. A mentor is somebody that says, all right, let me tell you my story, but I want to hear your story first, right? A mentor is somebody that's going to go ahead and understand that this is a young human being. Their brain is not fully developed. The science says not until, around 25, 30. I know 50-year-olds who aren't fully developed, right? So you can't imagine that they're going to know how to do everything right, you know? And so a mentor is somebody that says, I'm going to help you figure this thing out, man. And I'm going to learn from you just like you're going to learn from me. That's a real mentor.
Yeah. And what types of success stories do you get out of your mentorship program? And I don't necessarily, yes, kind of the results portion of it, but what do your mentors get out of it? Because there is something that a mentor can take away from that for them.
Yeah. So I can call it. So I've got Terrell. He's one of my mentors. By being a mentor, he said this has helped him become a better father.
Nice.
Because he's talking to a kid that doesn't have an active father in his life. He has his own kid in his house, and he says, I never realized how little I talk to my own kid, because I have conversations with my, with kid at a center, and then I go home and I'm talking to my son about what I'm talking to him, what I'm talking to, the mentee, and he's like, well, you never helped me with that.
Oh, shoot.
And he said, man, this really, fucked me up. And he's like, all right, I got to stop.
Yeah.
And rightfully so. And even me, when I do this work, I spend so much time out in the community with other kids that I have to check myself and make sure my own son is okay. Most people who know me, they know my kids, right? My kids have grown up in safe and sound, right? They volunteer with and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I've had kids talk to my own sons, and they're like, "Man, your dad's one of the cool ones." And they're like, "Nah, he ain't that cool." But then they'll have conversations, and they're like, "Nah, man, your dad's real cool, man. He really gets it, man. He understands that we're gonna mess up, that we're gonna fuck up, but he doesn't get on us. He'll check us, but he doesn't treat us like we're in trouble.
Yeah.
He doesn't treat us like we're bad kids. He treats us like we're just knuckleheads. We're kids, right?" And my son's telling me, "Yep, that's how he is.
Yeah.
He's going to tell you when you're right. He's going to tell you when you're wrong, but he's going to love you regardless. Whichever way you go."
Yeah. Do you guys, and I'm sure you do, run into instances where you're really trying to reach out and mentor a young man, and you're just not getting through?
Yeah, we have some tough cases, man. We have, and we're not naive. We know that we're not going to be able to save everyone, right?
Sure.
We know that we're not going to get through to everyone, and it's a pride thing too. Like we want to do it. We want to, we're going to crack this nut. We're going to figure this out. But there are some tough ones out there, and there are some real hurt kids, and they've got so many walls that we've had to say we can't do it. We know that this is beyond us.
Got
right?
it.
And we have a therapist that comes in, and we'll try to try to refer them out for therapy services, because there's only so much that we can try to do.
Sure.
If we see a kid that's completely shut down, we know we got to get somebody else to help.
The children that you are helping, these are normal everyday kids.
Man, I got kids from every part of the county.
Yeah.
Right?
But it's not necessarily orphans.
No,
you know, people listening to this may be like, oh, these poor orphans, they need mental. No, these are just kids.
These are kids. These are kids. I've got 2-parent household kids.
Yeah.
I've got kids in South Tampa. I've got kids in Brandon. I've got kids from University area, all over Hillsborough County. And as young as 11, all the way up to 18. Only boys right now.
Yeah.
But it's literally they all have the same thing in common. One, something has bothered them so much that they resorted to criminogenic behavior, right? And they did it primarily to either get respect or to get some kind of temporary relief, whether it was money or try to get clout or whatever. That's why they did it. What we try to focus on is you're bigger than the biggest mistake in your life, right? And let's figure out a way to harness that energy you had and make it into a positive thing. These kids are so organized when it comes to like breaking in cars and committing some of these acts. Like they get on Snapchat, they text each other, we're going to go to this neighborhood at this time, we're going to hit these streets. And we tell them, if you all can do that, you can organize your own team. You know, you can be on a team somewhere. Right. You can really do some stuff. I've got kids are 3D printing guns, right? Gun parts.
Jeez.
Dude, if you can do that, you can do other stuff.
Yes.
You know, they're 3D printing houses right now, dude.
Yeah.
So, and that's a skill.
Yeah.
So let's talk about how to harness that the right way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this then, because typically when an adult goes out, commits a crime, there is a reason for it. They needed the money. They needed the car, whatever they need. And you kind of gave a little bit of why a child would something would lead them to violence. But do you think there's a difference or maybe a correlation between what I want, the respect, the clout, the money, whatever, versus mental health issues?
Yeah, so there's a parallel. Kids face so much, as we said earlier, negative stimuli, right?
Yeah.
So I have to be better than somebody. Used to be when you got into a fight back 20, 30 years ago, got in a fight at school, people heard about it like the next day or whatever, next week or whatever. Something happens now, you know it immediately. And thousands of people.
If it's not live.
Yeah, thousands of people. You saw that, with Blake had a brawl, just a brawl of 25 plus kids and, all kind of stuff. And everybody knew it right then and there.
Yeah.
Somebody gets online, they say, I don't like this person. It goes viral. Everybody's there. So now I'm a kid. I'm automatically in shutdown mode, or I'm automatically in fight mode. I'm automatically in a protect mode, and I'm automatically in a I got to get you before you get me mode.
Yeah.
Because of that technology, because of social media. So kids are already on 10 before 10 a.m., right?
Yeah.
And so we try to make sure that we keep them, calm down. Let's talk through things. Let's figure this out. We have this exercise. Any guy that comes in the center, whether it's one of the kids or a mentor or volunteer, we have a figure, we have an outline of a male figure, right? And it's all drawn in pencil. Every day when they come in, they have to write an adjective or a phrase that describes a positive characteristic of a male, right? Okay. And you can't use any word that you see, any phrase that you see right there. And it just basically outlines this. And in order to get credit, or if we're having a meeting, if you came up there, you can't leave the meeting unless you use that word 3 times, right? Okay. So think about it like this. You got 20 kids that are in the room, and you've got everybody's picked out their word. They can't use anything, so it's now expanding your vocabulary. Yeah. But then you're using that word 3 times, 20 kids. So 60 instances of positive messaging, right? Yeah. So hopefully by the time that they leave us and they go home, they've had so much positive, stimulation that it helps to them so that they won't hopefully do something bad in the evening, right? When they leave us. So we very intentional, focusing on positive messaging, because these kids are angry. These kids want to go after one another. These kids want to feel like they got clout, they got, whatever. And so we got to battle that with positive messaging. Yeah.
If you don't mind, I do want to go into the suicide that happened a couple months ago. Yeah. We've done an episode on suicide prevention, and it hits home for me because I attempted years ago. And so anytime that topic comes up, my ears perk up. Yeah. What was that journey like with him before that incident?
You know, he was one of our tough cases, right? A very angry young man. Our place, and I'm not saying that we were the end all be all, but he always he'd rather be with us than go home. He'd rather be with us than go to school or anything, simply because, one, we treated him like a kid, let him be a kid. We, gave life lessons and teaching him, but we treated him like kid, He had some mental health issues. He was in juvenile mental health court, had a counselor, had, all kinds of supports, but still was just a tough case.
Yeah.
But we saw glimmers of hope. We would see him light up at different things at different times. He finished with us. He was probably maybe 5-6 months, from us. But everyone knew this kid. Like, the state attorneys knew him, the public defender, the judges knew. Everybody knew this kid, right?
Yeah.
Because he had just been in and out of the system so many times.
Yeah.
He finished with us, and then we got the call that, and it was with a gun, right? So talk about like hurt.
Yeah.
Talk about the wind out your sail. Talk about questioning yourself.
Yeah.
What's it? Imposter syndrome. Just thinking that we're not good enough. We're not doing what we're supposed to. As soon as we found out, I shut everything down.
Yeah.
Told my staff, don't come in. Everybody take time. I called a therapist. I said, please, I need you to talk with my staff. I need you to talk with me. We got to talk this out. And we had to let everybody have a moment of healing, right? When we all got back to the office and, we talked this thing out and we talked to the therapist, I asked everyone, you tell me when you're ready to start. You tell me, excuse me, you tell me when you're ready to start working again. Yeah. And Thaddeus said, we're ready right now. And I said, are you sure? And they said, yeah, because if we don't work, then what are we going to do for the next kid?
Right.
Excuse me.
You're okay.
So it was a tough moment, man. It was real tough, but we try to shake it off. It still hurts here and there.
Yeah.
When we think about him, but for him, we have 100 more.
Yes.
Right. So we got to keep going.
Yeah. It's I know it's, and I've said it before on the podcast here that we go through that too. And, when we have families or ladies that we just, for one reason or another, just couldn't connect with, couldn't get through the program. And I'm immediately trying to diagnose it.
Right.
What did we do wrong? Where did we go wrong? And sometimes you don't. Sometimes you didn't.
Yeah.
Sometimes it played out the way it was supposed to play out because something else is on the horizon for that person. And it's just, I can't imagine.
But then you find your anchor, right? Shortly after that, I had a kid literally out the blue. I haven't talked to this kid in 2 years. Texted me and said, hey, is this Mr. Freddy? I said, yeah. And he tells me who he is. I'm like, I haven't talked to you in 2 years. Like, what are you doing? He was like, oh, I just want to let you know, I'm back in town. I said, well, where you been? And he told me, his family moved, but they came back in town. And he finished school.
Yeah.
He said he was trying to figure out if he wanted to go in the military. He was asking me, what branch do you think I should go into? All this stuff. And I'm sitting there literally like, dang, man, he did all right.
Yeah.
And this is once again, this is one of the worst ones, people thought. And I'm like, all right, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Let's keep going. Let's keep pushing, because even if it's one a year, 2 a year, whatever, it's worth it.
Yeah.
It's worth it.
Yeah. It is somehow, what's was it, The Sopranos, when they always made fun of and they pulled me back in, and it's like when sometimes we get to that point living in this nonprofit world and of service where you get to the end of your tether and you're like, I don't think I can do this anymore. Yeah. And then something like that happens and you're like, All right.
Yeah.
I'm still here. I'm still here because it is still making an impact. And I want to get into a lot of the impact that Safe and Sound Hillsborough is making.
Yeah.
We're going to take one more quick break and we'll be back right after this. On the other side, we're going to be talking with Freddy about Safe and Sound Hillsborough and all of the good things that they are doing in our community here. And we'll be right back.
Especially for like the boys, man. I started this thing called Barton's Belts, and I got tired of going to court because we go to court with the kids. I got tired of going to court and seeing kids without belts. I started it because literally I was walking in the courthouse and a kid had a pair of pants on and they were sagging or whatever. I literally took my belt off and gave it to him.
Wow.
And literally didn't know the kid. I didn't know who he was. He wasn't in our program or anything. And literally, I saw him like later. I think I can't remember. I think I was in a meeting or something. And I came down. He was in the lobby. And he was like, "Hey, you want your belt back?" I was like, "Nah, man, you keep it." He was like, "This is a nice belt, man." I was like, "All right." And then,
Were you kicking yourself later? Like, man, I shouldn't have gave him that one.
I was like, I don't even, like, I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming he still has it or whatever. But because of that, I went back to the office and Thaddeus and I were talking. I said, I said, right on that wall, I want nothing but belts.
Yeah.
So when people ask, "Hey, what can I do?" Literally, if I'm in a group, at a meeting or whatever, I tell all the men to stand up. I was like, "Give me your belts. Like, take off your belt, give it to me." And literally, I hang them right there at the center. And so people now got like a wall of belts, and so the kids come and they pick them out. They're like, "I want that one. I want that one." I'm like, "Cool."
Nice.
And when you go to court, make sure, back then it was Judge Leffler. He's not a juvenile anymore. I said, make sure that Judge Leffler sees you with a belt.
Yeah.
And they do it. They're like, "I got a belt." He's like, "You got that from Freddy, didn't you?" Yeah, but that was cool. So, I mean, people can donate stuff. They can, drop stuff. I've had people bring, like, we had a punching bag, for kids to let off some steam, pool table, stuff like that. We take the kids fishing, so
nice.
People get fishing rods. So and we're always like thinking outside the box, right? I had a guy bring some welding tools, and now the kids are learning welding, all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And what it does, I mean, it's almost like getting kids into sports. It gives them something to do. It gets them off the street, keeps them occupied. Because, and especially kids, but anybody these days, you give me too much time on my hands, I'm going to find something to mess up.
I always tell you, if we don't give the kids something to do, they will find something to do. And it's not what we want them to do. Right? That's my little phrase.
Yep.
And people are like, "You're absolutely right."
No, it is. Yeah. So Safe and Sound is kind of, you guys know all this, and you're actively trying to help out. But it's not just specifically for youth.
No,
correct?
No. So all things violence prevention, right? So when we look at how do you improve relationships between law enforcement and community, because when we saw what happened with George Floyd, nationally, we just had shit everywhere, right?
Yep.
So we put together a series called Moving Us Forward, right? And how do we bring law enforcement and community together?
Right.
And having those simple conversations, we look at how do you deal with dating violence? How do you deal with emotional wellness? Our mental health first aid, we're getting ready to start doing psychological first aid, which helps people de-escalate in the time of, an instance of trauma or issue or anger. Our community conversations that we do, our officer and youth component at our reporting center program, anything that addresses, things that contribute to violence, we address, right? About 2 months ago, starting in June, we launched Tampa Youth Violence Prevention Week. It was our first year doing it.
Cool.
And we provided like micro funding to the not usual suspects, right? So those churches and smaller nonprofits that don't know how to write grants or whatever,
right.
We gave them seed money to put on, stop violence walks and, showing our short films and having community conversations and wellness walks and, healthy food and fruits and things like that. So we look at things as what can contribute to violence in the community. Let's address that, right? If people say, look, these kids have nothing to do. All right, let's put on a clinic. Let's put on something for them to do over spring break. Let's put something over in the summer. Let's do something. But then let's talk about how we can do this once a month, once the school year starts. We have homework-a-thons, like every other month, where one Saturday, all you do is you come here, you play basketball, you hang out, but for like 2-3 hours, it's nothing but catching up on homework.
Yeah.
Let's do that,
Yeah.
So we look at ways to engage community, improve the quality and health and well-being of families, and then keep people connected.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I was reading your resume, your bio earlier, which it is like a 3-page resume.
I gotta cut it down.
I noticed you have a lot of awards, a lot of accolades, but one that I think I did not see on there is movie producer. Is that the reason you did the short films? You had to add that title to your bio?
I didn't have to. And so now, like, I'm literally like this movie guy. And I'll tell you the funny thing. My wife actually found out. I didn't know, with our short film, I didn't know anything about this stuff where you have to register things like that.
Yeah.
And she said, I think it's IMDb or IMBD, one of those. She's like, you got an IMDb page, right? And I'm like, what? I literally Google it. And Freddy Barton IMDb, and it's like, oh, executive producer. Oh man, this is dope.
So I joke with you. When I was searching through your website, I saw the 2 short films, and you guys have been doing promotion on like Facebook and stuff like that, and it kind of blew me back a little bit, and I'm like, nonprofit doing short films. How? Why? And then how do I get into this? Yeah. And I'm actually genuinely curious. What brought up the idea for the movie?
So when we first started getting into the youth gun offender program and gun violence, we said, look, we got to get messaging out to these kids, right? Sure. But we started hearing stories, and we knew all this stuff that was happening. And I said, look, let's start with a PSA, right? Let's just do something we can put in the school districts, something go over all schools, put the guns down and all that. Yeah. And I said, no, these kids don't want to hear that, but they'll watch a movie. Yeah. Like they'll sit down and watch something, especially if it's something they can relate to, right? Sure. And literally it started with me having a conversation with kids and said, look, what would you say to a kid about, picking up a gun? They said, look, guns, bullets don't have names on it. And what gave me the inspiration for Blink, the first film, is I said, every time you think about gun violence, you think of the image of a bullet coming out of a gun. What do we have to do to reverse that bullet going backwards? And the concept started simple. I said, imagine, this bullet moving backwards through like shattered glass. And as it comes through the shattered glass, the glass comes back together like before it happened. And you see, a kid graduating from high school. You see a mom, smiling and having dinner with her child. You see a father getting into life. And as this bullet goes back, you reverse that bullet. You reverse a negative trajectory, and that's what started it. And then I said, we got to do something. And the way we got the title, I said, we got to do something right now, right fast, in the blink of an eye. And that's how we came up with Blink. And I said, because life happens so fast. And then we started that, and we premiered it in 2023. And as soon as we were done and we had the premiere, someone came up and said, man, you got to do a sequel. You got to do something. We got to see what happens to that kid now, right? Because the ending of the first film is such that you're like, I can't believe it wasn't a fairy tale ending, right? Sure. And it showed that, look, in the blink of an eye, one decision can cause so much chaos in your life. And so then we came up with the second film, Atone, and now we're doing the third film, Forward. Then I'm done, with films. My board is like, okay, Freddie, this is enough.
Let me get the trilogy out, guys, and then I'll hang it up, right? Yeah. Was this all done in-house?
So the first film was done quasi in-house. Our second film had a great director, Erica Sutherland. And so we contracted her to do it. She's doing our third film. Okay. I wrote the script for the first one, did the concept for and script some of the script for the second film. We just finished writing the script and log line for the third film. So writer and producer and all this stuff. And even in the second film, we had the staff, as some of the actors and talent. We used all local talent, in our films.
Nice.
Yeah, nice. We're actually I think next week-ish, we're going to have another casting call. So we're going to put that out on social media so people, if they want to get their act on, they can go. We have a couple of scenes where we need a lot of extras.
Okay.
We're actually going to film in one of the schools, Academy Prep.
How do I need in on this?
Yeah. Just look for the casting call.
I need my movie debut.
I need somebody to play like one of our counselors. You'd be perfect for it.
Is he a jerk, a sarcastic prick? Because I do that.
Nah, he's a softie.
I can be softy.
Yeah.
No, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
So I think it's brilliant. I really like the idea, and it was, a little bit of like thinking outside the box, like you had said, and kind of the inspiration for what we're doing right here, now. I wanted something that was kind of out of the box. Podcasts are a popular thing, although it might be a little saturated at this point, but I feel like our message is still strong enough that it's going to help somebody out there at some point. But you guys have tons of programs at Safe and Sound, not just the gun violence and the mentorship, but what talk about some of the other programs.
So we've got youth leadership programs where we teach, life skills, but also team building and how to network appropriately in the community. We started youth mock trials. We actually have one coming up on the 18th. That's going to be over at the Skills Center, and it's going to be a youth mock trial centered on making online threats and whatnot. During the summer, we have a financial literacy camp that we do. So a lot of different programs, and then we started academic credit recovery for kids.
Nice.
At our center, we just launched a GED program.
Nice.
That one I'm really proud of, and it's selfish to me because I don't just want it for the kid. I want it for kid and mom, right?
Yeah.
I told my staff, I said, how dope would it be if we had one of our kids and their parent get their GED at the same time? We're going to throw them a graduation. It's going to be something, we're going to get them caps and gowns. I want them to know that they did this together.
Hell yeah.
That is my dream. I want to see that happen.
That's cool.
We want our kids to get their GEDs, but I have so many parents that tell me I don't have one, right?
Yeah.
I want the kid and their mom or their dad or whoever to go with it.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that'll be fun.
Yeah. We're trying to deal with this. We're starting to see so many fights at school, right?
Yeah.
And like I said, last week, you had 25 kids, in a brawl over it. So we're now trying to talk with kids about, with psychological first aid and how to, de-escalate things, how to talk things out, conflict resolution.
Yeah.
Kids don't have that stuff now. They don't have that anger management stuff. And like I said, their brains aren't fully developed till later in life. So they're automatically on 10, right?
Are you guys going into schools?
So we do it on a limited basis. We've got some special programs. When we do our mock trials, that's usually in schools.
Okay.
I go into some schools and talk, and on the middle school level, we've got 2 middle schools that we work with. We partner with the Buccaneers a couple of years in a row, through their social justice program.
Yeah.
With youth leadership. So we went into young middle. Last year we were at Middleton High. And so, we keep trying to find opportunities to get in front of kids. I tell people, you tell me where a group of kids are, I'm going.
Right.
Yeah, I want to talk to them.
Have you ever entertained the idea or has anybody ever entertained the idea of something like this actually getting into school, like in the curriculum?
Yeah. So
because as we were talking about before, there's kids don't know how to change tires anymore. When I was going through school, it was mandatory.
Yeah,
you had to do that. And now a lot of those, my daughter just graduated high school and college now, has no idea what home ec class is.
Right.
How do you not know what home ec is? That's where I learned how to fry an egg.
Right.
But there's nothing like that in the school, at least that I'm aware of. There's nothing like that in the schools anymore.
We've had so many conversations with the school district, and I get it. I'm sensitive to their issues and their problems. The school day's packed. Freddie, we don't have 1 minute that we can spare for an extra program.
The school day's packed, but they have early dismissal every Monday.
Right.
You got to come with some. That's bullshit. You got to come with something else.
When they tell me that, I'm like, okay, but you do have, we have assemblies, right? So let's find, pick one day out the year, and just like we have the Great American Teach-In,
right.
Let's find one day and let's adopt that day as, violence prevention, or let's talk about, coping skills or anger management, and then expose them to something else. I took some of the kids from the program. We were in the van, and this just goes to show you lack of life skills and things that you just don't understand. So I took their phones. And
oh God!
I took their phones, I put them in the glove box, and just drove around, and literally just drove. And I mean, we were 5 miles away from the building,
right.
But I just kept looping. And this is probably around 5:30 in the evening, 6 o'clock. Traffic had died down a little bit. And I said, all right, guys, tell me how to get back. And they're like, what? I said, tell me how to get back. You guys got to tell me how to get back. And they're like, well, we don't know where the hell we are. I said, well, I'll tell you what. We got to go west. We got to go west. If we go west, we can get there. And they're like, what the fuck are you talking about? And I'm like, we got to go west just to help me get west. And they're like, I don't know where west is.
Kanye?
I'm like, where's the sun? And they're like, the sun's right there. I was like, where does the sun? I said, it rises where and where does it set? I was like, what?
Oh
What
my.
are you talking about?
Oh,
I said,
these poor
okay, so
kids.
remember the rhyme, guys. It rises in the east and sets in the west. And they're like, sets in, I said, it goes down in the west. And literally, we're in the middle of a parking lot. Like, and they're like, can we just get the GPS?
You have all our phones. Just pull up the GPS.
So I'm like,
Oh my
we got to
God.
go west, guys. The sun sets in the west.
Yep.
So where's the sun? They're like, right there. I'm like, so let's go towards the sun. And so literally we're driving and we're just driving straight. And they're like, oh, now I know where we are.
Oh, wow.
Here's the thing about it, man. As soon as we got back to the building,
Yeah.
they literally were drawing like north, south, east, west, and they begged to do it tomorrow. They were like, we want you to take us even further. And I bet you we can get back. And so the next day, literally, I gave them a map.
Yeah.
And I said, okay. And I drove and I said, here's where we are. We got to get to the center. No GPS. You got to tell me what streets to go to
Yeah.
get back to the center.
Yeah.
Like kids crave
They
that
do.
kind of
They
stuff.
do.
We just don't give them the opportunity to learn that kind of
No,
stuff.
and
man.
to
We
be
got to get back to it.
and to be honest, it's probably because a lot of us are in our phones and
Yep.
on our computers a lot too,
Yep.
and so we're
Yep.
missing out on that.
Yep.
And
Yep.
and that's part of, I would have to imagine that's part of the reason why you're mentoring children that have two parents.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
where are we missing this here?
Yeah.
Why are we so out of touch with
Yeah.
our own youth?
That's what I'm saying. Like with Terrell, one of my mentors, I go back to what he said, man. He said, man, mentoring these kids has helped me become a better father because I just realized how little I talk to my own kid. I get home, I'm tired from work.
Yeah.
He's on his phone, he's on his game, and I just go and I watch TV or I'm on my phone and I'm not talking. I don't know anything that's going on with him. I know more about this kid than my own kid.
Yeah.
This told me I need to wake the fuck up, So like that's the kind of stuff that we love to see and we love to hear. We do this one thing with parents and kids where in our program we have a dinner with them, right? And, we teach the kids how to make this meal, and it's not like spaghetti, it's like chicken Kiev. It's like some weird stuff sometimes.
Okay.
And we buy all the ingredients and we send it home with the kid.
Yeah.
And their assignment is, you got to cook. I want to see pictures of you cooking, but I also want to see you plate it. And I want you to have dinner with your parent, your mom, dad, whoever.
Yep.
And there's a conversation card.
Okay.
On the front of it, it says, mom, dad, whoever, tell me the last time I made you proud. Tell me the last time I hurt you. Mom, I'll just say mom lights into him. Well, I don't know the last time you made me proud or happy or whatever, but I can tell you when you made me mad. You got in trouble, you're in this program, I got to go, I got to take you here, this, that, and the third, blah, 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 blah. Mom goes off. Typically, is what happened.
Yeah.
And then mom gets it off. Whew,
Yeah.
flip the card over. Mom asks the kid the same thing. Kid says, well, I don't know the last time you made me proud, but I just want to go see my dad, and he told me no. Then a week later, we have the parents to come in and they talk, and they're like, I have not had a more meaningful conversation with my child than that. Wow. I need to do it. Can you give me some more cards? Can you, so like that kind of stuff, we're trying to normalize getting back to talking to one another, right? And communicating, to hear like mom say, I want to cook for the kids and have conversations with the kids now and doing things like that. So we ask people, or when people ask, hey, how can I get involved? How can I support? Hey, just come to the center. We'll show you how to get a mentor. But we have people who say, hey, look, we want to cook for the kids. We want to hang out with the kids. We did this in Grills and Games. I got guys, bring your grill,
That's cool.
hang out. We had stations, right? So
Yeah.
over at this grill, they're going to be doing some chicken, but they're talking about dating, what's it like to, date in 2025.
Yeah.
This one's talking about military careers. This one over here talking about, conflict resolution. And they're just rotating amongst grills. Guys want to grill and barbecue outside.
Heck yeah.
And then we got kids around there, and so they're all like cooking and working with each other and then bonding with the men, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the kind of, we're trying to normalize conversations.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Can I be a troubled youth? barbecue?
Yeah,
I love barbecue.
Well, we're gonna have another Grills and Games coming up. It's just way too hot right now.
Oh my God. Yeah, no, that's a good point.
Yeah.
It's probably hotter outside than it is on the grill sometimes.
Yeah.
What other things is Safe and Sound looking at? Next 5 years, do you guys have any big plans?
Yeah. So, like I said, our program right now, we only serve boys.
Yep.
Hopefully within the next year, we're going to open up a girls component. Man,
Nice.
Girls are tough, man. They're a whole different beast. So we wanted to make sure we got it right and we ironed out the kinks with our male program. So hopefully in the next year, and I've been hitting the head over and over. When are you going to do it? When are you going to do it? So now that we've kind of fine-tuned what we're doing in the program, we're going to open up the Girls Center. We're going to look at how do we expand into other parts. When we first started the work of Safe and Sound, we targeted 4 zip code areas. So we did East Tampa, 33610. We had University area, 33612. Portion of Plant City, 33566 and 563. And then down here in Waimama, 33598. We expanded our programming, and these are for our primary programs, right? Some of our programs are countywide, like our mental health first aid and all that stuff. But then we went into town and country. We started working in Temple Terrace, and we started getting more into Plant City. So over the next year, 2 years, we're going to probably, spread out even more. We've had a lot of transition youth. So kids who moved from West Tampa when all that stuff happened, now they're down in South County or they're in University area. And with that, has come some issues, right? Because now they're in different neighborhoods and, we got to make sure that we solve those issues too.
Right.
So that, and then also working with other cities and doing best practices. We've gotten a lot of interest from multiple states now asking us, hey, how did you create this youth gun offender program? I got to go to Minnesota and talk about it. So really making sure that people know about the work and expanding that. So that's going to be something. And then finally, really just expanding the services that we're doing. I really want to get more into family counseling and family therapy for the kids. We do a lot of great things for the kids, but what do we do to address the built environment? What do we do to address home? So that's what we're trying to tackle right now. How do we really provide those wraparound services for the family?
It makes sense, Freddie, because where are the kids coming from?
Yeah. I always tell people and this, and most nonprofits, all of them know, we do so much great work. Right? We work with them, and when we have our clients with us, we have our kids with us, they do so well, and then they go back. And then when they come back to us, it's like hitting the reset button every time. Yeah. It's like, we got to make sure that we're providing services in the house. We got to make sure that we're providing support from mom. We talk about how kids don't, have tangible skills. We partner with this event, Suit Up and Show Up, and we teach the kids how to tie a tie, right? Yeah. And the truth is, they don't know how to tie ties because one, they either don't have a dad there or whatnot, and mom doesn't know because she didn't have a dad there to help her too. So it's like things like that we gotta get back to, and we gotta start teaching these kids how to do certain things that we take for granted every day.
You know what that's called? Breaking the cycle.
That is.
Freddie, I really appreciate you coming all the way down
man.
here. I know it's not around the corner from your office, but hopefully the drive home won't be too bad. Yeah. No, it's been great learning about Safe and Sound. Anything you can tell anyone out there that ways that we can support Safe and Sound?
Yeah. So one, go on our website to learn all about our programs, right? safeandsoundhillsborough.org. I do want to give a quick shout out to my leadership council.
Go for it.
One of the big power efforts of Safe and Sound is the partnership that we have. So the Board of County Commissioners, all 3 cities and law enforcement agencies of Tampa, Temple Terrace, Plant City, State Attorney's Office, the Public Defender's Office, the Clerk of Court, the 13th Judicial Circuit, the Children's Board, the School District, USF, all of those agencies come, and every single month we have a leadership council. The public defender and the state attorney duke it out every single day, but they come together to talk about what's necessary to keep people safe and keep our kids on the right path, right?
Love that.
So I got to give a shout out to them. But you can go on our website, find out all about our programs, contact with, connect with social media. We're on Facebook, on Instagram, all that stuff.
All the stuff the kids are doing.
Yeah, all the stuff that they're doing. You know, I still say the Twitter, you know.
Yeah.
So, but, you know, volunteer. If you want to, if people say, hey, can I, you know, volunteer? Can I drop some stuff off? What do your kids need? What do the families need? I was telling you about Barton's belts. You know, whenever I'm in a group of men and they say, hey, we want to do something to help the kids. All right, take your belt off.
Yeah.
Why? Because I'm tired of seeing our young men without belts, right? Belts, you know, if people want to donate, you know, sports equipment or anything like that, we're always trying to expose the kids to different things. We take them fishing, you know. So call our office, connect with us on Facebook, send us an email at info@safeandsoundhillsborough.org, and just help us do what we can to keep people safe and keep kids engaged.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it, Freddie. Thanks for coming down. Good luck to you, to Safe and Sound. And I better get an email for this, what was it, a counselor's position?
Yeah.
On the film? I want to be in the
Yep.
film. I need to make my film debut.
You got
I feel it coming. Awesome. Thanks again, Freddie.
Thanks, brother.